there's just a certain number of contractors who are repeat offenders over and over again. Now, I'm 77 years old. I can't read those signs at the dump, although I've told people, yeah, you've got wood, take it
I'm
over.
actually getting new signs
We
made.
need something printed with letters about this big, and something that says, Broadwater County residents only,
Yeah.
and make it really, and
It does say
you
that.
will be, charged if we catch
Right.
you. Volunteers are great. I'm a professional social worker, I've been a volunteer, I've managed volunteers. Getting volunteers is like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And, Miranda left. Well, she knows with our local advisory council, we've got a mailing list about this long for our meetings, but about 3 people show up. The guy, you're saying, well, good things. Yeah, good things should be able to be recycled. But you've got a dump Nazi up there that runs around on a bobcat and takes everything and rants and raves that it's not a flea market, and that takes great delight in picking everything up, putting it in the dumpster. Now, my kids went down one Christmas and got me a present. It was a bookcase, solid wood bookcase, and they put a red ribbon on it, brought it home. It was the best Christmas present I ever got. I cleaned it up, put it in my office. It's a really good bookcase. I don't know, I guess my parents went through the Depression. Waste not, want not. Now, when you talk about you say this, this, and this, but we haven't seen the data on what your deficit is coming from. There was something in the paper that said, well, they weren't getting the metal that they've been getting before. I haven't seen any data, okay? How do you know? So maybe nobody's buying maybe nobody's buying metal. Recycling's kind of weird right now. I know you love solid waste because I looked at the solid waste newsletter from 2014 and you were the technical person, okay? But, when people can't get to the dump easily, then they start throwing the trash out in front of my house,
Yeah.
your house,
Yeah,
everybody
along the
else's
road.
house.
Yeah.
And I had a kid that was working for me years ago now. And he was a neighbor kid. I live up on Lower Deep Creek. And I said to him, you go up there and you pick up all those beer cans and all that garbage that's along the road. And I said, when you go back to school, Zane, you tell your buddies not to throw out their trash in front of my place because you're going to have to pick it up. And you know what? It stopped getting dumped. Okay? It was Zane MacArthur. Who's, he's... But, I don't know. When they talked about creating your position, I was at the meeting, and we were told, well, you had 3 departments that needed somebody to oversee all of them. And they talked about the person having a commercial driver's license, being able to operate heavy equipment, and I think being able to lift 75 pounds.
I can lift 80 pounds.
I don't do that anymore. I've got some hay bales that weigh about 85 pounds, But, and they said, well, that's so if somebody gets sick or something, this person could go in and operate this machine, these stuff. Well, all right. The other thing is you hire somebody to be there. It's gonna cost us a lot of money.
That's right.
You're gonna have insurance and liability and everything else. And I think the rule of thumb is that the, expenses are like 30% of any salary. So let's face it, somebody falls into a dumpster, there you go. I could fall into a dumpster and never get out. The dumpster divers, yeah, there's good stuff in there sometimes. But I agree, they shouldn't be jumping into.
No, they shouldn't be.
But I would like to see, and this is a totally different, but it's the same thing, it's the road department. Okay, twice I have come to commissioners' meetings and said, you guys need to get up on Ross Gulch, because there are holes in that road right up, you know, that are huge. Somebody's gonna go in there, they're gonna go right down the edge and get killed. So I went up to see Karen Honey the other day, you know, she got demolished in that ATV accident. And oh yeah, well, finally they put a couple of little markers and a piece of wire. They need to do is go to the opposite side of that road, widen it, okay? It's a real thrill going down there. It's like a dip of death when it's icy, and it's usually icy up there. But you've all been warned, so if something does happen, it's on the record. You know, you got it. Thank you.
Sure. So to address a couple of things, I do have budget money for a full-time person. We had 3 people at solid waste. Right now I have 2.
But the sheriff
there.
can't get any money. This county.
This
we need
is,
sheriffs.
so solid waste is self-funded. We do not take any money from the general fund. The money that we use to run the program is from the assessments that we all pay as landowners. So part-time people do not have benefits, okay? So there's no additional 30% on top of part-time. That's why I was looking at part-time as a way to get someone out there to help, but still minimize the cost. So that would be a straight hourly position, less than X number of hours per week. That's what I was looking at. So let me just throw this out there. I was gonna have a man gate. The purpose of the access gates is to keep vehicles out of there. Who really needs to dump at midnight on December 31st? Who really needs to go out there and dump? No one, as far as I'm concerned. It's not reasonable. I need to try to put together something that works for everyone, not just that person over in the corner, for everyone. So I can't make allowances just for one person because they don't like it. I was gonna have a man gate, so if people absolutely need to dump a bag or 2 of garbage, after hours they can walk in the gate. The man gate is not gonna be locked. They can walk in and do that. What that would prevent are vehicles coming in and dumping waste that they don't need to be dumping in there after hours. There are a couple things I'm already thinking, sitting here listening to everyone, there are a couple things that, you know, maybe we can do to make it convenient for people that are never around on the weekends to dump when they need to, as long as, you know, we record and they dump what is acceptable to dump at these locations.
What harm does somebody dumping, it's crazy, on New Year's Eve, but actually, what harm is that doing to the county?
The issue is people dumping materials in there
All right?
that, number one, either can't be diverted, or number 2, they're dumping them in there because it's free. So
Well,
we're
then
all
you
paying.
should be taking pictures of it, getting their license plates, pictures of
I
their
understand
trucks, et
that.
cetera.
And what I sent an email this morning, and what I need to find out from the sheriff's department is, because I had someone send me a license plate number and told me exactly what this person dumped. What I need to know is, what authority do I have? Because I can't just go look up on the DOJ's website who owns that vehicle. I know the Department of Justice won't give it to me. I have to go through the sheriff's department for that. And it has to be for a specific reason. So these are things, but this was my preliminary plan. I'm just saying, I need some help from the community on this. Who's willing to step up? I know that people are mad about it. And I understand that. And I am not so rigid. I won't take those into consideration. I want to. That's why I pulled back on my initial plan. But I think we need to be reasonable. I'm sorry, and you were next, and then you after her.
No, when you talk about, you know, dumping a couple bags of trash, well, you know, we have a lot of elderly people here in town, and some of them may not be able to walk through that gate and dump it. So we need to think of our the elderly people too, right?
Right,
And then, as for like the maintenance on the vehicles and the equipment that was purchased, how much longer, do we have to pay for that equipment? Cause it sounds like someone went out and bought it and we weren't prepared
it's
for
been,
it.
no, it's been paid for, that's why we have the deficit. So, and on one of our newer pieces of equipment, I still don't have the bill, but it's at least $4,500 for the repairs because the preventative maintenance work was not done. It wasn't done, and that is something that they're doing right now, but you have to do preventative maintenance on this equipment, otherwise you're gonna run it into the ground and you're gonna have to buy something different, and we don't have the money for that.
That's a nice Bobcat that guy was running around on.
And I don't know who that was,
I don't
I'm
know,
sorry.
He was young.
Okay, all right.
You know, if you had to lock the drive-through gate, open them at 6 in the morning, 6 at night, something like that, have a walk-in gate, people have got 12-hour period there, they can get in there and get out. I mean, there's lots of things if everyone stops and thinks about it, that would be logical to do. And everyone could live with.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Because I am looking at it from my perspective in the solid waste industry. I've been in waste management since 1991. For the last 16 years, I worked for DEQ. I inspected landfills, I looked at container sites, I was the technical lead for the program. You know, and I saw what other counties do. And they do limit access, and they do limit the hours. So what I'm trying to figure out is what is reasonable, how can we accommodate people and still control our costs at the same time? That's what I'm trying to figure out, and I need to know from the community members. That's why, again, I'll go back to it, that's why all I'm asking is for a group of people to volunteer to give me some input on how we manage these various sites. And I want people from, you know, the people that use Dry Gulch. I used to live up there and we use Dry Gulch all the time, you know. And now we use Cedar Street because I don't live up there anymore. But people from those areas, what do you see as issues? What are your needs? What are the needs of your neighbors? You know, and how can we accommodate everyone and still control these costs and divert the waste that we can divert to properly manage them at our facility instead of sending them to Helena. So, I'm sorry, you were next.
Okay, my biggest question is, we're looking for volunteers to help out. You said you got this license plate sent to you, and you've got to go through the direct, you know, the proper channels to find out what to do about it. What kind of jurisdiction do I have sitting there at the dump out in little Podunk, Raidersburg, and some guy comes in out of Bozeman, and I tell him, no, he can't dump his stuff there. And mind you, I have done that before. But who am I to tell them what they can and can't do? What can we do?
As a volunteer?
You know,
Did they?
it's kind of a scary idea, but
Sure. Did they leave when you asked them to?
they still dump their stuff.
Okay.
But, you know, I just mentioned it to them,
Okay.
kind of thing, but they're just gonna do it anyway. I mean,
Sure.
unless I'm carrying a big stick or something like that.
Right.
You get a
Right.
camera record and then.
But the
Right.
camera,
There.
you know, it's just,
Right.
you know, the liability sitting up there, for instance, myself or Gary or any of us sitting up there by ourselves with somebody, you know, coming in there.
Right.
Well, the issue also is, what about the people who are part-time residents? What about people who send their kids who live somewhere else down to the dump for them? There's lots of, so do you send out a survey or do you just call a meeting to get all of these ideas together?
I can do whatever, you know, I have a solid waste board meeting next week. So next Tuesday night, I have a solid waste board meeting. I was hoping to have a group of people put together by this Friday because I wanted to invite them to the solid waste board meeting where we could have a more focused discussion on the issues and throw some ideas out there on a possible resolution. That's what I'm looking for. So if people are desiring just to be a part of that, just to throw some ideas out there, please come to our meeting. It's in this room at 7 p.m. on Tuesday night. And I am open to ideas, suggestions, because I'm not the only one using these sites. But I do have to come up with a solution on this. And as far as, your question about safety with other people coming in, that is an issue. And that would be an issue for a county employee or a non-county employee, and I need to find out from the sheriff's department, what authority do we have? What kind of signage do I need up there so that we can, snap a picture? Fine.
There's signs up there that say there's cameras.
Yes.
The thing
Never has
with
been.
cameras, and I know this, we put them up where I mine and everything else, and they'll come along, and if they spot them cameras, they shoot them.
Yes.
I mean, look at our signs,
Yes.
our road signs,
Yes.
what they do to them. They
Right.
do the same thing with cameras, they'll do the same thing. And you've gotta put them, around a dump site somewhere,
Right.
and unless you really protect them somehow, it's an expense, it's never gonna go away.
Probably, I would think that when they shoot the thing, the camera's working, it'll get a picture of them shooting it.
Well-
So
But,
your mine is probably more isolated too than.
it doesn't matter, when you shoot one of them cameras, if you're using the trail cams or whatever, when you shoot one of them cameras, you've lost the chip that is, what used to be the negative, you've lost that, so you still don't know who was shot.
Well, hopefully there'd be more than
Um,
one camera.
At Winston, a man gate sounds good, but that road is so narrow, if you pull in,
I know.
you're gonna have to back out, and now you're backing out on the
At Winston,
highway.
those access gates would be at the highway. That's where they would have to be, so that people knew. Because there is nowhere there for them to turn around. And the county owns the site, but I don't believe the county owns, other than, we have a right-of-way, we have an easement on that road, like we do with every other county road. But that doesn't mean we can go in there and maybe necessarily do what we need to do. I don't want people to have to drive in with a full load, find out we're closed, and then go out, because you know what's gonna happen to that garbage. It's gonna be dumped right there.
Yeah.
And if it was by the road, people would know, and that would be that. So, Mike, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Eric and I have been working up there the last month, and it's a lot of mixing of garbage too. And it's also a huge safety factor for the county employee. Walking through the garbage, pulling stuff out that people shouldn't be mixing with other stuff. How many tires did we pull out of one load on Wednesday?
It was enough to fill the loader bucket. We're talking 25 tires probably.
I mean, appliances all sitting in the garbage. We were walking through that stuff, hypodermic needles, whatever in there. It's
Well, that's
dangerous.
from livestock.
Hmm?
That's just from shots, though.
No, not necessarily.
necessarily.
What do you
There's a
want people
lot
to
of
do
drugs
with
in
that
this
stuff?
county
I mean,
too,
what are we
just like
supposed to do with it?
Supposedly has better.
It needs to be separated properly too. That's one of your biggest issues. You guys aren't nobody's separating. Brush within garbage, it just goes to landfill.
Right.
That's why
Pallets,
you start getting
tires,
cross coming
tractor
back.
tires, steel, appliances,
Yeah,
mattresses.
The only thing I've seen to separate down in Raidersburg is cardboard and garbage. So,
There's a lot of aluminum that goes in, there's steel that goes in,
Well,
but
there's no place else to
do
put
we
it.
have anywhere to put the dumpsters to separate this?
what
Well,
about
and
the
the-
marked
You know,
areas?
The
And
issue
Still
is,
get the trucks in and, that
Right.
kind. I'm sure the people in our area, Terry's and Myrna's and Mindy's, I'm sure people in our area the majority of them would dump their stuff in different bins if they were there.
Yeah.
We don't have it.
We don't have it, see? I mean, that's just the way it is. We just don't, we don't have them, so we've got 2 bins to dump all of our trash in.
I have probably 40 tires on my house, I just have,
Well, we got more than
you
that.
know? Like,
But we
I don't
take
throw
them.
stuff like that out of the dump,
Yeah,
we
Well,
just,
maybe another good example of this is the sites that here are in town. I mean, there's cans there for metal and everything else, and they're still in, metal and stuff is still in the garbage cans. You know, the other day when
Always had
Steve
that.
pulled a can from town, up there, it had the most tires, metal, and appliances in it, and there's a steel bin right there, and there's a brush bin right there. So I
and
mean,
that's,
you
I
can't
mean,
just say that putting bins there is gonna help, because it's not working in town. So what's it
well,
gonna do
it
anywhere else?
may not work in town. You may need a man there to direct people to your bins, but I think the majority of the rural people, if they had the bins to keep from being under a thumb,
yeah,
would,
we'd use it, I think.
we would
Yeah.
utilize it.
Our neighborhood would, because we really just don't wanna be regulated, it's just not what we want. You know, I think we'd make an effort to separate stuff if
Yeah.
it was available to us. Everybody would, because we really just don't wanna have to be on some schedule, because it's not logistically possible.
needs to be
Everybody works
communicated
so
though,
many
right?
different things,
It's
it's
hard to pull our
hard to
community
be.
together, because people are
I
very
mean, I
busy out
see
there.
people coming in at 10 o'clock at night from, working all day out on the ranch and have got to stop by the dumpster. And the next day, they're gonna be up herding cattle, they've gotta have their truck to pull their fifth wheel with. I mean, you can sit back and watch all this stuff, and is there an easy solution to it? No, there really isn't. But, locking people out is not a good
It's not
solution.
gonna work, I can just,
I think the least
It's gonna be a cost to the county, because already I know lots of people that are gonna say if they lock the gates up, we're just gonna dump our trash wherever.
oh, they're gonna burn it, which I lived in New Mexico for half my life, and we would burn all our trash, because it was too far to go to landfill, we didn't have any, it was too expensive, so we just burned it. Which, it's not,
You burn
That's what
all
you
the
do.
plastics and
yeah, it's not
everything.
good, but that's what we did my whole,
Yeah,
my
I
whole
mean,
life.
it's not there's a lot of issues. You
Is
Tim,
the
did
county
you-
road
really is.
department gonna
Did
pick
you have
up
a
the
question?
trash
I
that's
do.
dumped?
Okay,
Oh, we
Uh,
take it out.
You know, there's been quite a few, as you've seen, Mary, discussions on social media as far as the current, I'll call it, unfortunate, some people don't agree with it, a crisis that's going on with the solid waste department in having a negative numbers in funds. Those numbers have bounced from quite a few different extremes. The question I guess I have, as you move forward, you've backed off on your proposal that surfaced. And one of the things we have not seen is any estimates of costs to, for example, on the gating, as far as what it's gonna really cost the county, whether you go through the assessment fees, or is the county gonna have to come up with some money through PILT to help fund this process, or from a different capital improvement designation? In other words, I guess my question is do we have any estimates at all of what it's gonna take, and an estimate of how long it will take us to get back into the black, if you will?
no,
What
we
is the
don't.
budget?
Okay.
Like, how much money is supposed to be coming in every year per household?
That's what I just said, it should be, we should have a total based on what we had last year come in for the budget was $371,000, okay? That's what we had, the assessment is $128 per homeowner. Commercial businesses are assessed differently because they produce more garbage. Farms and ranches, I am unsure as to, that's a conversation that we're starting to have on the solid waste board, is looking at how the Department of Revenue applies that assessment to farms and ranches, okay? But farms and ranches, they can have a landfill, they can dispose of their own garbage on their own property that is generated in reasonable association with their agricultural operation. That is called the agricultural exemption. And what that basically means is you can get rid of your manures, your twine, your old hay, your household garbage, you know, if it was a lambing shed or a calving shed, that's something that's in reasonable association with your agricultural operation. You can dispose of that on your own property if you want to, as long as you follow the general solid waste rules in terms of you need to cover that stuff. You need to dig a hole and you need to cover it. Okay, that's, I don't know that a lot of people know that. Now, as far as how long it's going to take us to get out of the red and into the black, like I said, I'm a glass half full person. I would hope that we could do that in a year, but I realize I have to ground myself in reality. It's going to probably take a couple of years to do that because we have assessments coming in right now. As I said earlier, at the end of September, the deficit was $309,000. That's going to continue to go up until we have assessments come in November that'll take some of that deficit and wipe it out, but we're not going to get enough to totally wipe it out, and we still have to operate. We don't get our second round of revenue coming in until May, correct? And, you know, that'll take care of some of it, but in the meantime, we're still operating. The money that we're using to operate is just, it's general county money right now. And, you know, I too am a taxpayer. I too am an assessment payer. And I want to be sure that, you know, and I'm charged with making sure that the county spends their money efficiently, effectively, that our solid waste operation is efficient, you know, that we meet the needs of the county residents. So I am willing to compromise, believe me. I am willing to compromise on what we need to do to fix the problem, but there is a problem that we cannot deny.
Chairman, follow-up. Just a follow-up question would be, in our research trying to get the information, and I'm with the Broadwater Reporter, trying to make sure that we get the information out to the people the best of our ability. In our original process, we pushed really hard trying to get to the bottom of a part of the issue, which showed that some households are not even being assessed with the fees.
Correct.
To have that happen.
Yes.
And it was talked about Department of Revenue responsible, and then oversight from the county as part of that. Is that also part of making some corrections here? Because we have
Yes.
A multiple number of households
Yes.
that were not being assessed, and how do you and how does the county move forward with making that correction sooner rather than later?
So we have, Tim, we've been working with the Department of Revenue, the Solid Waste Board, and we've sat down and looked at the properties that they did not have in their system. It's my understanding that it was Department of Revenue's job to put that assessment on our overall tax bill that we get. So there were several, and I don't know how many years, but for a number of years, there were several properties in this county that were not getting that solid waste assessment. So one thing that we have done, and I just actually responded to Department of Revenue's latest email this morning, you know, but as far as I know, they are this close to being done with making sure that every property, at least every homeowner, has been assessed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's moving forward.
Yes, yes. And then moving forward, we do kind of have a plan in place as to how we're going to make sure that as new construction is being done, that we add them to the books, because they should be paying for that.
So in essence, I don't know if Nicole is, that would be included in preliminary plat approvals and construction. Are you going to a construction permitting process countywide in order to make that inclusive?
No.
How do you make sure that that's part of the county records?
So one thing that we have talked about is when it's when it's a rural site, so I live out of town, I have a septic tank and a drain field. So when we go through that approval for a septic tank, we have talked about making sure that, you know, number one, that's added. And number two, this is another way to address the construction waste, is that if someone's gonna build, before we built our house, we had to have our septic tank approval. So capturing a construction fee for solid waste disposal at that time. And that's something that we've talked about since I've been here. It's just, I don't know what else to say other than there are so many issues. It's not been forgotten. We will get this.
So in other words, the sanitation department and the planning department need to be on board as we move forward so that we can get a handle on it. I guess that's what I'm hearing or seeing. And I don't know if you can have that authority to do it. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have
So,
a question, Mary. I'm a licensed salvage person. I'm licensed with the state of Montana. If the county or the commissioners or yourself come up with a plan, I would be involved in getting the steel and all the stuff out, even the wood, because I tear down old buildings too. But my concern is, I am 75 years old. I get $834 a month in Social Security. Jessica was just up the other day to assess my property. So you're talking about putting more people on the payroll and stuff. That means that I gotta pay more. If you keep it up, I won't have no money left. What I think this deal about putting gates and stuff is gonna cause more problems. I see garbage already up around my area, and you know that. And if I get more garbage, I'm gonna be on somebody's case, badly. But I've seen Rail Link in there dumping stuff. I see all the campers that come out of Crow Creek dump their stuff, and they're not from Broadmoor County.
Right.
I was actually
Campsites.
Yeah, but you
put to
can't,
the
yeah.
test with Dana when he seen a paper of mine that was in the dumpster, and all I wrote back to him is say, be a little smart and go over and check my tax record. I own this property. I have the right to dump in that. But being hassled all the time you ain't gonna get on my good side.
No, I don't, and Ron, I said earlier, I do not want to raise the assessment because I don't see any reason why we can't operate efficiently and effectively for $128.
Yeah. And another thing, Mary, it seems like our area never gets much done. Our roads are still bad.
Yeah.
Now we got a garbage problem, which I'll probably end up having most of it. But you know, I just won't put up with it. And I would help the county because I was running for commissioner. But I have some good ideas. And if I can help in some way, fine. But don't snow me under with a payment that I can't make. You know, paying all these taxes and stuff. And I don't hardly even take any garbage down. And all my stuff that I bring home goes on my property. It don't go down to your dumpsters. But I've seen it happen. And the first thing that should be done is to have somebody up there to detect this and who's doing it. Don't take it out on the residents up there because most of them respect what they have to put in there.
I understand that, and that's why I'm asking for their help. That's why I'm asking. Please come in and talk to me. Let's sit down and have a discussion and come to some sort of a solution that works for everyone.
That's right.
Because they are convenient sites. I've seen counties threaten to close them down. I don't want to close them down because right now they're convenient for all the users. It's fine. But what I saw this summer is we'd be pulling 4 cans of Tostin, 4 cans out of Tostin a week, or 4 cans out of Radersburg a week. Well, you know what? When I look at the map and I look at the number of people that live there, the numbers don't add up. We should not be generating that much garbage in those areas. Where is it coming from and what is it? And that's what I'm trying to get a handle on.
That's the
is
plan
that
you need to
kind of
come up
thing.
with,
Yes,
is to how, the situation, how to get this stopped.
exactly.
Because, you know, like a lot of the people, and I'm from Radersburg, I'm from Kidding Gulch, been there almost 4 years, and I bet you I haven't put in $100 worth of garbage.
But you
I
still
don't
pay the
mind,
fee.
I don't mind making that fee, it does make
Mhm.
it where I can take what I take down my household
Mhm.
garbage. But I will not put up with people dumping on my 40 acres.
Mhm.
You will hear some screaming.
Well, I wouldn't put up with people dumping on my property either.
But you know, you got this also with the campers, all the campers, you got the motorcycle track. Most of the people just drop it right where they're at. But there is some, I've stood there and I talked to the people myself, out of Gelton County, out of some other county, dumping garbage.
Mhm. Right.
So Mary, I think for me, a big thing is communication, because you're right, the proposal you had previously thought about or whatever, and then it gets out on the Facebook and then people just take off, and me including, you know, I had my comments in there too. But I think a lot of the communication is not available to all the people. Like you said, you put a letter in the reporter. I don't get the reporter.
Yeah.
So, I know that there's Facebook and a lot of people don't use the computer.
No.
Or maybe we need to spend money mailing letters out to the community so they know what's going on and
Right.
not everybody's in an uproar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I just think that communication, and even like, can you send to other commissioners or whatever that Townsend will not, or Broadwater County will not tolerate
Out of county.
out of county dumping in our landfills?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything we can do right now to try to stop
So
it?
there are, and I do have plans for a mailing that has some educational information in there so that people know what they can and cannot do at these sites and what really needs to come up to the transfer station. I do have signs ready to order. I have to talk to a couple other people because I'm gonna put one big order in at the same time, but I am gonna, because those signs that we have are faded at these canister sites and you can't hardly read them. So I am putting new signs up out there so that people know. And I do though need to find out what authority do I have from the sheriff's department to be able to, you know, find people for, and talk to Corey. What do I have? Can I find people, or can I at least send them a bill? Because if I can get their information from the vehicle, I will send them a bill for whatever is, you know, whatever we need, so it's commensurate with what they dispose of. So, yes, I do. And I will, and I'm planning on it. But I still would like input from people in the community so that, you know, we can guide this so that it works for everyone. Because this time of year is a really good time to do it because things slow down. People tend to produce less garbage at that time. You know, so if we're gonna implement a change, let's do it in the fall and winter when we're not so busy, and we'll make our adjustments in the spring and summer. Because I know that's one thing that we're gonna have to do, is make some adjustments. People get busy, we have more daylight, and, you know, that's the way it is. So, again, this is a plea for people from these various locations in the county to get a hold of me and say they wanna be part of it. I'm happy to meet with them, I'm happy to go through the issues, happy to give them the information so that I can show them when this started. But for me, it's not about pointing fingers now, because what's done is done. It's about trying to come up with a solution. And that's what I would like to do, and a solution that works for everyone, that works for the majority of people. I realize I'm not gonna be able to please everyone, but we can make some concessions also. And I'm not opposed to that, I am not.
If we can please 51%, the other 49 follow.
But I think when you
That's
have
the way
the,
it works.
I think when you have the community involvement,
Yes.
so, you have, you know, like Raidersburg or who,
Well, we're all
Winston.
Raidersburg gets nothing from the
No,
county.
okay, but
And that's why we're all upset about it. The only thing we have in Raidersburg is the dump. Our roads are not maintained, not like they are on the other side of the county, or
That's right.
Toston, or anywhere, they're not
That's right.
maintained. And that's fine, we don't wanna pay more taxes, we're good. But the only thing we have in Raidersburg is the dump, and it would be nice to be able to use it. I mean, that's the issue.
well, we all wanna use the dump, right? But I
And we
think
have
when
all
you-
the campers coming through, and that's part of the issue.
Then
It's
that,
like a
and that
marathon of
needs to be
campers.
dealt with. I mean, that needs to
But
be
do you
dealt
want
with,
them
not.
leaving all their garbage in the elkhorns? No.
No.
So let's let them use the dump.
I mean,
But shouldn't they pay for that?
Yes,
Shouldn't
they
they pay
should.
for that?
Yes,
They should pay
Well,
for
they
it.
should pay for it, but realistically,
Or they
there's
should,
no way to
or they
enforce
should
that.
pack it home. That's what
Well,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
but
come up with, is
They're
how
not gonna pack it
can we,
home if they, you know, they're either gonna leave it out there, or they're gonna dump it in Raidersburg. You know, 'cause
Here's what
if they
they
can go
do
through the
in-
man door, they're gonna walk in and use the man door, cause that's what they're gonna do.
In other places, they make
Or they're
them,
gonna
they
throw it out
charge
for the
them to
appropriate
stay in
road.
the
Yeah, that's gonna be a
campground,
lot
so
of
they
fun.
do keep
Right.
care of their garbage
Right.
and be able to keep care of their
Right.
garbage. And if that's, people ruin things for themselves. And if that's what it takes to make everything work for everybody, that's what it takes. You know, if you have to make them put up a $6 camp permit, and some of it go to the waste management, you have to do it. You gotta, the ones responsible usually
paying
don't
for it.
pay. It's the ones that are sitting there all the time that are paying. So you need to make the ones responsible that are doing this stuff,
I agree,
you know.
I agree. So,
Maybe people with travel trailers or campers or something like that should pay an extra registration fee when they register this stuff.
In the
Waste
county.
disposal. You already pay a state tax or something for the parks,
right,
you know.
right.
I don't understand, why don't you just raise the bill, $135?
But you're one person sitting
Well, I'm
here.
just, is
No.
everybody really so against, like, I mean, an extra $10
Yes, actually, there are a lot of,
is gonna cause so that we can
There's
use
a
the
lot
dump?
of
Yes,
extend
there
You don't wanna
are.
pay another $10
Yes.
There's a
so
lot
we
of
can dump
things
whatever we
to
want?
income people.
that is, again, I'll go back to,
Well, I mean, everybody in the whole county?
I will go back to what I said. I would really like the community to be involved. I would like to have groups of people from these areas come in and talk to me so that I can develop a plan. And so my whole purpose here today to speak to the commissioners was to talk about what my plan is. And that it's a work in progress, that it's something that I'll be working with the solid waste board on. And we will have that discussion on Tuesday evening at our meeting. So,
One question before we go, that kind of relates to this is get a report on where we're at with our interlocal agreement with Lewis and Clark.
I'll present that to the commissioners on the 29th. Yes.
And if we have another problem out there, we don't get the law out there as much as everybody else does. And people know that. And if it's an issue, maybe you should present something to the county, the sheriff department, maybe once in a while to go around.
Right, right,
know that my neighbor.
Because I see it, Mary.
right.
I had a tree across Kitty Gulch for 5 days.
It's like you guys,
that property.
it's like the
143.
Sandersons and the Colberts.
And that was,
They do
I
not
went
want to be
on
regulated
agreement.
going to the freaking dump.
Nobody could be, they were trying not
And the
to.
Williams, and they just don't, and they can't even come